I decided to try a couple of different springs, and I don't like it that it just sits flat like it has no suspension. So I went ahead and pulled the back half of that off, and the black spring on the left is the one that came stock with the shock set, and the ones next to it are a bit stiffer, and the tall ones are the ones that came with the double barrel kit. So I think I'm going to try the silver ones next to it, and hopefully it gives it just a tiny bit of lift, similar to what the stock springs give it, without having any modification. Because this travels on a longer lever now, a wider arc, it provides more force to the shock than it did in stock form, so that's why it needs a bit heavier spring. And if none of those are heavy enough, I got some from a hack eBay seller a while back that are way too strong, but I don't think I'll have to go there. But we'll see how it does. I have determined that the taller springs and the stiffer springs, neither one are that great when it comes to articulation on this. It really needs to just ride on the stock springs because of the geometry on this. It can, when it goes down, it goes a little bit over center, so it doesn't just naturally pop back up until it goes back over center again. You'll know what that means if you're here to see it, but it's like it can hold itself down as well as up because it goes past a pivot point. Right about there is the middle, and below the spring is actually holding it down. So it's better to just run stock springs, I'm finding out. The final thing I'm going to do is add these preload cuffs, and it's basically going to put a little bit of compression on the spring just to start off with, and I'll see what that does. Well, there's the shock with the preloader on it, and it still has enough weight with the battery that it goes full compression. But with the, actually, you know what? Once the body's down, it's not too bad. I've got a little bit in there now, but it still goes over center, which isn't bad because that'll help you when it comes time to climb. But I'm going to preload the other side and see what I think. Alright, this is with one preload on each side. I'm already noticing that it's doing something that I personally don't like in my crawlers, but if you're one of those guys that likes to lift your crawler up and have a lot of, high clearance kind of stuff, this is pretty cool. But it's not really for me because look at that. It literally sits way too high. And that'll give great ground clearance, but it's going to make the CG really high. Climb through the box canyon. With that tail end up, it's not going to have any issues other than high center of gravity and the fact that it's just going to look like that all the time, sitting up real high in the back. So stock springs, don't add anything to them. Anything else that you add is just going to make it sit too high. And if you're into that, if you want a lifted truck, it's probably the coolest thing you can do because you can still get articulation out of it, but it will make your center of gravity pretty high. So monster truck guys, have at it.